If you had the misfortune to do too much of it at school, you'll probably remember one thing about history, just how boring it can be. You might harbour painful memories of the 100 Years' War, the War of Spanish Succession, crop rotation in the Middle Ages, or heaven forbid, the good deeds of Florence Nightingale. As a result, it wouldn't be surprising if nowadays you tended to steer well clear of the whole topic. But that would be a pity. The real reason why history is so boring is that we're not clear about what it should be for. Here's the big reason why history matters. It matters because it can provide us with solutions to many of the problems of the present. At its best, history is there to introduce us to some of the things we need, but that aren't sufficiently. Getting clearer about what history is for should change how the subject is taught. In the future, we should treat history a bit like a doctor treats a medicine cabinet. Before diving into history, we'd first have to work out what was wrong with us, what we were lacking in the here and now. We might be diagnosed for a lack of courage, or a spoilt nature, or a hesitation about whether to marry. And we should be prescribed history accordingly. It should always mean history with solutions or consolations for today. Now that could be interesting.
Who in the world is Cyrus the Great? Well, Cyrus the Great c. 600–530 BC was the founder and first king of the Persian Empire. He conquered most of the known world of his time, including the powerful Median, Babylonian, and Lydian empires. He was known for his tolerant attitude toward other cultures and religions, and for his extensive building and administrative programs. Cyrus also issued the first human rights declaration, known as the Cyrus Cylinder, which granted freedom to slaves and religious tolerance throughout his empire. Cyrus is remembered for his military genius and for his establishment of the largest empire the world had yet seen. He was a great strategist and diplomat, and his succession of military conquests helped to create an empire that spanned from the Mediterranean Sea to the Indus Valley. He was also a great patron of the arts and sciences, and he encouraged the development of literature and philosophy in the Persian Empire. Cyrus's legacy is still alive today. His policies of religious tolerance and respect for cultural diversity are still valued by modern-day leaders and citizens alike. He is also remembered for his great achievements in military strategy and government administration. In addition, his policy of granting rights to slaves and other oppressed people laid the foundation for the development of democracy and human rights in the West.
In the year 622 CE, a city was on the edge of conflict. Medina, home to different tribes and religions, was in need of unity. Then came a revolutionary document, the Constitution of Medina. When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, migrated from Mecca to Medina, he wasn't just a spiritual leader, he became a statesman. One of his first actions? Drafting a charter that would bring peace to a divided city. This constitution wasn't just for Muslims. It included Jews, pagans, and all tribes of Medina. It was a multi-faith agreement, a groundbreaking concept for its time. The charter guaranteed freedom of religion, mutual defense, and justice for all. It declared that all groups formed one nation, Ummah Wahida, despite differences in faith. No more tribal revenge. Disputes would be judged fairly. The Constitution introduced rule of law and justice over bloodline loyalty. Under this agreement, Medina thrived. Different communities lived in peace, worked together, and defended the city side by side. The Constitution of Medina wasn't just a peace treaty. It was the first written constitution in Islamic history and a timeless example of coexistence, justice, and governance.
It was issued by an English king and was written on parchment made from sheepskin. So how did a document published over 800 years ago influence the U.S. Constitution? In 1215, things weren't looking good for King John of England. After losing a brutal war and lots of land to King Philip II of France, his reputation as a military leader was in tatters, and many of his subjects were angered by rising taxes that he imposed, which they couldn't afford to pay. As a result, the threat of rebellion was real. Under pressure from the English upper class, who also had a lot to lose, King John agreed to do something that no English king had ever done before: establish a new set of rules that would limit his power as king and protect the rights of his subjects. Magna Carta Libertatum, or Magna Carta for short, put those new rules down in writing. The document included 63 parts and was written on sheepskin parchment. It has influenced how countries around the world are governed to this day.
On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress officially adopted the Declaration of Independence, a pivotal moment in American history that asserted the colony's right to self-governance. Written primarily by Thomas Jefferson, the Declaration articulated the colony's grievances against British rule and outlined the fundamental principles of individual rights and government accountability. The Declaration famously begins with the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal," emphasizing the belief in equality and natural rights. The adoption of the Declaration not only marked the birth of a new nation, but also inspired future movements for freedom and democracy around the world.
In 1789, revolutionaries wrote a new vision for humanity, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. Inspired by Enlightenment ideas, it declared that all men are born free and equal in rights. The National Assembly crafted this document to replace oppression with equality, liberty, and fraternity. It guaranteed freedoms we now consider fundamental, like freedom of speech, property rights, and protection from tyranny. For the first time, the people, not the king, were at the center of power. The Declaration of the Rights of Man wasn't just for France, it inspired freedom movements worldwide, reshaping history forever. What impact did it have? Follow for part 3.